I want you to imagine two apartments in the same city, same rent, same street. In the first, everything looks impressive at first glance. Expensive furniture, the latest gadgets, closets full of clothes that still carry tags. The person living there earns well, more than most people around them. And yet, every time they check their bank account, there's a quiet tension in their chest. Bills feel heavy, and one unexpected expense could shake everything. Now step into the second apartment. It's simpler, quieter, almost minimal. Fewer things, but everything has a purpose. The person living here earns much less, yet there's a sense of calm you can almost feel in the air. Their expenses are under control, their savings are growing, and their future feels stable instead of uncertain. Same city, different incomes, completely different realities. So pause for a moment and ask yourself something honestly. If money alone determined stability, this situation wouldn't exist, but it does everywhere. Which means the real question isn't how much you earn, it's what you do with what you keep. So what's the real difference? Because the answer will challenge everything you've been taught about money, success, and the life you think you're supposed to live from now on. Here's the part most people never realize, even after years of working harder, earning more, and chasing the next level. Financial stability is not built on how much you earn. It's built on how little you actually need to feel satisfied. And that single shift quietly separates people who stay stressed from those who feel in control. At first, higher income feels like freedom. You tell yourself life will finally get easier. But something subtle happens. As income rises, expectations rise with it. A better phone, a nicer apartment, more frequent upgrades, small comforts that slowly become non-negotiable. This is the lifestyle inflation trap, and it's so gradual that you don't even notice it happening. The result is strange but common. You earn more than ever before, yet your bank balance barely changes. Your expenses stretch to match your income, leaving no real margin. From the outside, it looks like progress. Internally, it feels like running faster without ever getting ahead. Most people believe the solution is to earn even more, but that only deepens the cycle if your needs keep expanding. What actually creates stability is the ability to control those needs, to define what is enough before the world defines it for you. This is where minimalism changes from an aesthetic into a financial strategy. It's not about owning less just to look simple. It's about reducing the number of things that demand your money, your attention, and your energy. When your needs shrink, your surplus grows, and that surplus is what builds real security. Once you see this, it becomes impossible to ignore, because the goal was never to earn endlessly. It was to need less and finally feel free and build a life where money supports you instead of quietly controlling every decision you make daily. There's a quiet truth hiding behind almost everything you own. And once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Every object in your life is not just something you bought, it's something that continues to cost you day after day, often in ways you never stop to calculate. Ownership feels like a one-time decision, but in reality, it's an ongoing financial commitment. Start with maintenance. That car you were excited to buy doesn't just sit there for free. It needs fuel, servicing, insurance, repairs. Even when it's parked, it's costing you. The same goes for gadgets that require updates, replacements, accessories, and occasional fixes. The initial price was just the entry point. Then there's space. Every item occupies physical room, and space is never truly free. A larger home, extra storage, bigger closets, all of it exists to hold things you own. That unused treadmill in the corner, or boxes of old belongings quietly increase the cost of the space you live in, even if you never think about it directly. What most people overlook is the mental load. Every possession demands a small piece of your attention. It needs to be cleaned, organized, remembered, or dealt with later. Even unused subscriptions sitting in your account create a background drain, both financially and psychologically. It's subtle, but it builds over time. And finally, there's opportunity cost. Money tied up in things is money that cannot grow. That expensive gadget, that rarely used equipment, those forgotten subscriptions, they all represent money that could have been invested, compounding quietly in the background. When you begin to connect these layers, a realization starts to form. You didn't just buy these things. You committed to carrying them, financially and mentally, long after the moment of purchase passed. Once you understand the hidden cost of ownership, the next step becomes clear. You don't need more discipline. You need better rules. Rules that remove emotion from decisions and replace it with clarity. Because most financial mistakes don't come from lack of intelligence. They come from unexamined habits repeated over time. The first rule is simple but powerful. Before buying anything, think in terms of cost per use. Instead of asking how much something costs, ask how often you will realistically use it. A cheap item used once is expensive.
An expensive item used daily becomes efficient over time. This shift forces you to confront your actual behavior instead of your imagined intentions. It removes the fantasy and replaces it with logic. The second rule is the replacement test. Look at what you already own and ask yourself honestly, if this disappeared today, would I spend money to buy it again? Most people are surprised by how many things fail this test. Items remain in your life not because they add value, but because removing them feels uncomfortable. Letting go creates space, not just physically, but mentally. The third rule is to never upgrade out of boredom. This is where a lot of money quietly disappears. Things stop feeling exciting, not because they stopped working, but because you got used to them, so you replace them, not out of need, but out of restlessness. Recognizing this pattern alone can save you from years of unnecessary spending. The fourth rule is to create friction for spending. Make it slightly harder to buy things impulsively. Remove saved cards. Wait before purchasing. Avoid browsing without intention. When spending becomes less convenient, you naturally do less of it. You don't rely on willpower, you rely on structure. The fifth rule is to count what you own. Awareness changes behavior instantly. When you realize how many similar items you already have, the urge to add more starts to feel unnecessary. Numbers make the invisible visible. And once you see it clearly, it's harder to ignore. The sixth rule is to rent or borrow before buying. Many desires are temporary. What feels exciting today may lose its appeal quickly. Testing something before committing protects you from turning short-term interest into long-term clutter. It also helps you understand what you truly need. The seventh rule is understanding the lifestyle multiplier effect. One purchase rarely stands alone. It brings additional costs with it. A single decision can quietly expand into multiple expenses over time. Seeing the full picture before buying changes how you evaluate what something is really worth. The eighth rule is to define what enough looks like for you. Without a clear definition, your expectations will keep growing. There will always be something better, newer, or more impressive. But once you decide what is sufficient, you stop chasing endlessly and start building stability. The ninth rule is to measure wealth differently, not by what you own, but by the freedom you have. The ability to make choices without pressure, to step away when needed, to live without constant financial tension. That freedom comes from margin, not accumulation. And finally, the 10th rule is to make this process continuous, not a one-time reset, but an ongoing practice. Small adjustments made regularly are more effective than occasional extreme changes. It keeps you aware, grounded, and in control. Individually, these rules seem simple, but together they reshape how you interact with money, and more importantly, how money influences your life. At some point, this stops being about money and starts becoming about identity. The real shift happens when you no longer see yourself as someone who consumes, but as someone who chooses. A consumer reacts. They see, they want, they buy. An intentional thinker pauses. They question, they evaluate, they decide. That small pause is where control begins. You move from being a buyer to becoming a decision maker, and that difference is subtle but powerful. A buyer looks for reasons to justify a purchase. A decision maker looks for reasons to avoid unnecessary ones. One is driven by impulse, the other by clarity. Over time, this changes not just your spending, but how you experience life. Minimalism is often misunderstood as giving things up, but in reality, it's the opposite. It's choosing what deserves a place in your life and what doesn't. It's removing the noise so the important things become visible again. When you stop saying yes to everything, your yes starts to mean something. There's a quiet confidence that comes with this shift. You're no longer chasing every new desire or comparing constantly. You know what matters to you, and because of that, your decisions feel lighter, clearer, and more aligned with the life you actually want to build. Now this is where everything becomes real, because none of this matters unless it turns into action. And the good part is, you don't need a perfect plan or a big reset to begin. You can start right where you are with what you already have. Today, walk through your space and find 10 items you wouldn't buy again if they disappeared. Don't overthink it. Trust your first instinct. Remove them. Sell, donate, or discard. It doesn't matter.
What matters is breaking the pattern of holding on to things that no longer serve you. That single step creates immediate clarity. From this moment forward, apply a simple rule. For anything that isn't essential, wait 24 hours before buying it. Just one day. You'll notice something surprising. Many of those urges fade on their own. What felt important in the moment often loses its pull when given time. Then choose one category in your life and track it. Clothes, gadgets, subscriptions, anything that tends to grow quietly. Count it. Write it down. Become aware of it. Awareness changes behavior faster than discipline ever will. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Small actions, repeated consistently, create momentum. And once that momentum starts, change becomes not just possible, but natural. Imagine what your life starts to feel like when money is no longer a constant source of pressure. When you check your account and there's no tension, no quiet anxiety in the background. Your expenses are lower, your savings are growing, and for the first time, you're not depending on every single paycheck to hold everything together. Decisions begin to change. You're no longer forced into choices because of money. You can walk away from situations that drain you. You can take time when you need it. You can think long-term instead of reacting short-term. That space, that flexibility, is what real freedom looks like. And the surprising part is, it doesn't come from chasing more. It comes from needing less, from understanding what truly adds value to your life, and letting go of everything that doesn't. When your life becomes lighter, your finances follow. Over time, this creates something most people spend years trying to reach without success. Stability that doesn't depend on luck or constant effort, but on clear decisions made consistently. Because in the end, financial stability isn't about impressing others or keeping up with expectations. It's about building a life that feels calm, controlled, and truly yours. Financial stability isn't built by earning more. It's built by needing less.